Am I the only one who was shocked to find out that not all baby products are regulated? When it comes to what's being sold in stores, there's a difference between what is legal and what is regulated. Let's talk about it. If you're new here, hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a postpartum planner helping women be intentional about their pregnancy and blossom into the version of themselves that motherhood calls for. I love doing research about parenthood, child psychology, child development, and I take all of that research and I bring it to you. So grab a cup of something good for you and let's get into it. So let's start by laying the groundwork of the four safety groups that actually look into whether or not a baby product is safe to use. There's the AAP, which is the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they're a nonprofit that was created in 1930 with the aim to keep young people safe. They have over 67,000 pediatricians to weigh in on child health issues and make recommendations about child safety. There's the CPSC, which is the Consumer Product Safety Commission. The CPSC is the federal agency that aims to protect consumers from unreasonable risk. So, what they do is when they get information from a consumer, they start tracking to see if there's a pattern in what's going on. And they either reach out to manufacturer to rectify what's going on or they issue a recall. The ASTM is the American Society of Testing and Materials, which is also a nonprofit. And what they do is that they develop and set standards for consumer products and often expand on existing mandatory government standards. The ASTM gets input from engineers, consultants, federal government representatives, like people from the CPSC, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, manufacturers, retailers, test labs, consumer advocacy groups, and consumers themselves. And they compile all of that to look for ways to ensure that customers know how to use products and ensure that there are standards in place that make those products safe. The ASTM is also the group that will create the warning labels that you often see on the products that you purchase. And then there's the JPMA, which is the Juvenile Products Manufacturers Association, which recently rebranded to the Baby Safety Alliance. The alliance is made up of a group of manufacturers in the children product industry that represents about 300 manufacturers. A seal from JPMA usually means that the manufacturer has gone through an extra set of testing above the standards required by the government. Every product with the seal must meet the standards of the JPMA and the ASTM and had to be tested every year. I do want to note here that I generally don't put a lot of value on any certificates from associations made up of people of their own peers. So, with the Baby Alliance being made up of the very manufacturers that are creating the baby products that are then being placed in the marketplace, kind of raises a sense of conflict of interest for me personally. It's like writing an exam and then sitting for it as if you don't already know what the answers are. So, there is a bit of a flag raised for me, but the only evidence of a red flag that I was able to find for this particular group was in an allegation made back in 2010. The article is linked in the description if you want to read more. I still personally don't hold this seal up into any high regards, but it is an option that manufacturers often go through to meet those standards before releasing their products into the marketplace. So it's worth bringing up. The CPSC, again, that's the federal agency that aims to protect consumers from unreasonable risk of injury. Okay. They have 28 categories when it comes to baby products that lay out specific requirements and standards for all of those products that fall into each of those categories. These categories include baby changing products like bassinets, strollers, cribs, high chairs, and more. Adhering to the CPSC regulations is a self governing process where product manufacturers are expected and trusted to live up to those safety guidelines. And that's because the CPSC is an agency that just doesn't have the bandwidth or the resources to test every single product. But what happens if your product is for general use and doesn't fit into any of those categories that are already identified by the CPSC? Those unregulated products are still allowed to go to market. And it's up to the manufacturers to test the safety of those products that they are selling us. And since there's no set standards to violate, recalls on unregulated products are harder to set in motion, which means that even if they cause injury, there's no way to create a widespread campaign to inform other parents about the dangers of those products and discourage them from using those products with their baby. And there are numerous products that fall into this space: car seat add ons, Moses baskets, fluorescent cradles, loungers. While some of these products are not necessarily dangerous, whether or not they're safe is left up to the company selling it. And a lot of these companies end up making up tests to make standards to live up to that don't actually mean anything, like my product is breathable. An example of a common product that has been deemed unsafe but is still being sold in the US are the sit in baby walkers. The AAP, which is the American Academy of Pediatrics again, they've repeatedly called for a ban on these baby walkers in the US. They've talked about several fatal incidents from 2004 to 2008 and thousands of injuries that occur every single year. Pediatric physical therapists have shared how it can negatively impact muscle development, yet these baby walkers can still be found on the marketplace because the process of banning products can be so time consuming and involves so many moving parts that often the CPSC is unable to fully complete. Before we get into this next section, I do want to kind of put like a trigger warning here because we're about to talk about how fatal some of these products can be. So please skip the chapter about the retailers if you don't have the bandwidth for it. Okay. So I'll give you a couple of seconds just in case you were just listening to me and you need a moment to get to your phone. So we'll wait. If you're wondering, is it really that serious? Like, I don't really feel like it's a big of a deal. It is. It really is that serious. We are talking about products that we are either using with our babies or toys that we are allowing them to play around with. It absolutely is that serious. In 2019 and 2023, about 4.7 million rock and play sleepers by Fisher Price were recalled due to infant fatalities after the infants rolled from their back to their stomach or side while unrestrained. In that instant, an investigation by the House Committee on Oversight and Reform found that Fisher Price allegedly hadn't adequately vetted the sleepers for safety before putting them into the marketplace in 2009, and then batted away the criticism of the rock and play for a decade before recalling it in 2019 after more than 50 infants had already lost their lives. A recall was able to occur because the product fell under the CPSC category of infants inclined sleepers. So remember, recalls are only happening when they when the product falls under a category that CPSC has already outlined. The CPSC has flagged safety issues with loungers for years. The Boppy infant lounger was recalled in 2021. Several lesser known loungers sold by Amazon and Walmart were also recalled in 2024. In 2024, the CPSC rolled out tougher regulations to ensure that the baby loungers could be safer for babies. The new designs essentially forced manufacturers to basically create a whole new lounger. The new designs were firmer and flatter and without a pillowy side, which was part of the issue. That rule went into effect in May 2025, but manufacturers and retailers can still sell the infant loungers that were manufactured before that date, as long as they aren't marketing it as safe for infant sleep and aren't making any references to sleep in their images or promotional language, which makes shopping for an infant lounge that much more confusing. And shopping for infants, again, that much more confusing because you have the old and the new version of the same products still being sold at the same time. And so there isn't really a lot of cohesion and helping parents figure out what is safe for them to use with their baby. And to me, it gets worse when we start talking about who can be held responsible for these injuries. So let's talk more about that. Who is responsible when there is an injury that occurs? Well, Amazon, Temu, Walmart, and all those other retailers aren't responsible for the safety of many products on their websites because they claim to be intermediaries, acting like a delivery service between the product and the customer. They basically hang on to these outdated laws that were developed before online marketplaces even existed. And that leaves us, the consumers, the customers, vulnerable to all of the risk. So here's how it works. Product liability generally falls under strict liability, where you don't have to prove negligence in order for you to receive damages, money. So if you were harmed, then you are entitled to damages. Traditional product liability focuses on sellers who place products into the marketplace. Amazon, for example, argues that since they are just a hosting site, the third party sellers are the ones who should bear the responsibility of unsafe products and not Amazon. According to Consumer Reports, about 60% of the products available on Amazon are listed by third parties. Temu has made third party basically its entire business model. And most recent investigations found that several types of dangerous infant sleep products, including the baby lounges we talked about, incline sleepers, and different things that put babies in different positions, continue to be sold online despite having recalls and warning labels and rule changes discouraging the selling and buying of those products. So, in all of this, the problem with online marketplaces not being held liable for these products is that the injured party sometimes can't collect any damages because many third party sellers either don't have the money, are located outside of the US, and so the US law can't touch them, or simply can't be found. All that to say, if you are purchasing an unregulated product from any of these sites I just mentioned and it ends up hurting your child, there is likely nobody that you can sue. There's nobody that can answer to what has happened. So we, parents, are left to be the product testers, absorbing all of the risk when we use these products with our kids because not all products that are placed in the marketplace for newborns and infants and toddlers and children are regulated. That is such a big problem to me. And this is especially scary for toys shipped overseas directly to you because they don't comply with US safety requirements and they don't have to be examined by the Border Patrol if it's shipped under a certain value. Fortunately, since 2024, courts have been allowing claims against Amazon to move forward when consumers are injured by third party sales because they're stating that basically rely on Amazon to verify if we should be using these products. But still, not all Amazon products are being treated the same under this new law. Whether or not Amazon is able to be held liable still depends on who sold the item, how it was delivered, and many other factors. Keep an eye out when it comes to recalls by signing up for notices. So usually when you buy day products, you're able to let the company know when you purchased it and how to reach out to you if ever there's a recall. Sign up for that so that you're able to stay up to date. You can also keep an eye out by signing up on safekids.org. That's a nonprofit organization that basically works to keep parents abreast of any recalls that they come across. Also, be in the know on what can be purchased secondhand versus what we should probably buy new. And lastly, honestly, consider minimalism. We are saturated with so many technology, this and product that being sold a lie that this product or that product is an absolute must. And I know it can feel overwhelming to know what to get and what you need. But honestly, you don't need a lot of these things that are just heavily advertised to first time parents. And a lot of containers, which are what you call products that you put your baby in when you're not holding them, aren't that great for babies anyway. So if you're interested in looking into a minimalist bay registry, you need not worry. I got you. Check out the link in the description below, and I will see you in another video.